there's a little bit difference to it. So maybe quite a bit, some would say. But there are similarities in the relationships and how we deal with each other, and the friction that sometimes goes on, and the hard-headedness that can come over a husband or a wife. And sometimes it happens. I have trouble sometimes. Well, I've noticed this with women in general, that they tend to, if I bring up a subject or I start to talk or I start to tell something that God's shown me in here, as soon as I get that first, there's no conversation going on, everything is quiet. But if I bring up a subject or start to talk, at first I get out a couple of words, and then that woman or whatever may bring up a word before I even get it all out. And it's frustrating. And because I look at it this way, I'm the one who brought up the subject. I'm the one who started the talking. But then, and it's not just women. I know my dad does this too sometimes. But somebody else does start to talk like they were just waiting for you to ask them, to strike up a conversation with them or ask them a question. And then all of a sudden, they just take over the conversation. It's like, wait a minute here. I thought I was the one who was bringing up the conversation. It was my conversation, my subject, and I was trying to bring it up. And it takes a lot of God's grace to hold on and put that thing aside until you can, in an edifying way, instruct that person if you get the opportunity to do that. Sometimes we don't get to do that because people are in and out of our lives. They're not our immediate family. So sometimes, you just have to have grace. It just takes God's grace to hold on and to be able to instruct or edify somebody that way, or instruct them in an edifying way so that they can benefit from it, and then learn to stop their mouth and let somebody else talk. Because the conversations that we find are not about us, hopefully. They need to be about Christ, or what Christ has done for us, in us, and through us. Not necessarily, but especially the one who's hearing, it's even harder because we don't like to always pay attention or listen to things long enough. We don't like to sit still and really in tune ourselves with that other person, which is not right. We can't, because we don't want to identify ourselves with what they're saying. As soon as I hear it at work all the time, you bring up a subject, and as soon as you start out a subject, you don't even get to finish the story. And those other women are already talking about, oh yeah, it makes them think of something that happened to them in their lives, and boom, they've taken over the conversation. It's about them. I just sit back and I listen to this because I work with women. It's like that. Thank God they don't get mad at each other, because I get frustrated listening to the conversations, because I want to hear what that first person was saying. I feel like saying, shut up, let them talk. But I don't. I hold my peace. At least for now. I don't know. It's frustrating sometimes, but we need to remember that it comes to roost in the husband-wife relationship when that is not given. And a man who's a pastor or a preacher or a minister of any kind sort, he's got to have ears to hear. He can't. First of all, he has to have ears to hear from God. If he doesn't hear from God, how can he tell other people what he's heard? If he hadn't heard nothing, because he ain't listening. Because he's so filled with his own self or his own thoughts or the stupid activities that this world has to offer, and the entertainment and all the escapes that it offers, and his mind's off somewhere else when he's trying to pray or read the Bible or whatever he's doing. He's not paying attention to every letter of this word, every word of this word. I tell you what, if you pay attention, you start paying attention to details in this Bible, brother, and this thing starts opening up to you. God just starts speaking to you. Because you want to know things God's way, not your own way. That's when things, you set aside self, pay attention to the book, Ask God as a little child would to understand this thing and to have discernment. Ain't nothing better. Ain't nothing better. It's like eating spiritual food. Whatever your favorite food is, fried chicken, watermelon, whatever it is, green beans, coleslaw, something like that people don't like. Some do, don't. But this book is just like that thing when you sit down and you approach it as a little child would, who has no prejudices or prejudgments about this book. They come empty and they want and desire to be filled. God will fill, He will build, He will honor that, and He will fill you up to your brim to where you just want to explode, and you've got to start telling somebody about what God has shown you. It's not always about salvation. If you read the epistles of Paul, in most of the New Testament anyway, it's not about salvation. Salvation is spoken of a lot in the Gospels, but it is not even the primary subject within the Gospels. It's more about living and how to live the Christian life. Because the key, and it deals with sin as well and hell. But, and as it has been said before, hell is spoken about, Jesus spoke about hell more than He did heaven. But there's a way to live. And this is what this whole thing, instructions, that's why He wrote these different letters to these different churches, was because they were having different issues and different problems, and He addressed all of the problems and all of the issues of life basically with these different letters to these churches. They weren't all the same. And some of it though laps over. So and sometimes you get a little bit more in one subject that may be similar in another gospel or another epistle. It may be close to it or similar, but you may have some that expounds a little bit more. Sometimes when you find a verse in here that doesn't expound, give a definition to a word, for example, or it doesn't expound on the meanings as well, it may be not as clear, it may be muddy or dim. You can usually cross-reference somewhere else in another epistle or in the Bible somewhere and find out a better, clearer, deeper definition. Yeah, that's how it works. That's how, because it causes you to keep studying this Word. That's what God intended it for. It's why He said, study to show thyself approved unto God. For a workman needeth not to be ashamed. And so we go down over here, and I went into this long wind, but this needs to be built up. This needs to lead into this, in the wives submitting yourselves unto your own husbands, because it's not normal. And the woman, here's another thing about that the Lord showed me. Most of the people, I believe, that are in the churches now today, these organized 501c3 non-profit corporate churches, they're not real churches, not according to the Bible. The whole thing was about this. The whole fight between the early Christians and the Romans, or the Romans' fight against them, was because Rome tried to incorporate the churches into their system and to make them bow the knee to Caesar, and they would not do it. Part of that is about the tax thing as well. As Jesus told Peter, the kings tax the foreigners. They don't tax their own people. They don't tax their own children. They tax the foreigners, the ones who've been conquered. And that's what you'll see if you go over to, like I was reading this morning in Ezra. In Ezra, he was talking about they paid the accusers of them that were rebuilding the temple. They accused them of if they built up Jerusalem and the temple, then they would not pay custom taxes and tribute and all that stuff. Why were they doing that in the first place? Because they were conquered people. They didn't have their own land. They were not subject under God anymore. They were subject under another king. So that's another. I forgot what I was going with that.